We're live around the world. This is Men's Radio Station. Ollie, no need to look around. I mean, obviously, literally, but metaphorically not. This is Men's Radio Station. I'm Russ Kane. That's the great Ollie Mammon. And this is episode 36 of the ABC of CBD. Unbelievable. Now, this is a special week. But before we tell you why, perhaps our wonderful producer, Mr. Sinner, sitting there in Sinner Towers, could just play a little message from our sponsors.
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD, a product created by users for users, a product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service. The cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
I got to tell you, every time I see the ad and the guy looks in the box, I've just realised what it completely reminds me of. The film Seven. What's in the box? No? Brad Pitt? Everyone who knows the film Seven will be going,
Oh, you said
anyway,
Seven? Yeah.
Seven.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Seven. I went into my little daydream and I was just like,
I thought, where were you?
Brad Pitt movie?
Planet Mammoth.
Seven literally scared me. Scared me to my soul, all right, to the point where I've literally blanked it out of my memory because of the trauma that movie caused.
It was
too intense, way too intense.
Just a bit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be about the number 7. I think it's going to be about that, beautiful prime number. It's only divisible by 1 in itself, and bam, it's about the 7 deadly sins. Was not expecting that.
What you thought? Did you think it was a mathematical?
I don't know. I thought it was like a pie type movie, like based on the number. Like the history of 7.
Do you ever bother to read anything before you go and spend your
No,
money?
Never. I just see Brad Pitt. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be cool. It's Brad Pitt.
It's going to be Brad. It's got Brad Pitt. How bad can it possibly be? Unless it was Mr. Black, I think, which was so dull. Wonderful acting, but so that's not why we're here to talk about. Anyway,
not at all.
Ollie, this is a special week. Explain why it's special.
It's special because we have no guest. Ha 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 ha. It's literally just me and Russ for 1 hour.
Yeah.
So
explain why.
Explain why. So basically, since Christmas, all right, me and Russ have not done an episode by ourselves. The problem is every week we have these incredible guests who come on, and every week they blow our minds with these incredible stories. The show then ends, and we have no chance to evaluate. We have no chance for me and Russ to discuss the guest. We have no chance to kind of dissect any of the ideas which have been portrayed, and we have no chance to really add our 2 cents. We do it over the course of the show, but that sort of summary of every episode, we never really get to do it. So I kind of thought, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do a summary episode. Okay. So that's why we're here.
How many pages of notes do you have this week?
8. I have 8 pages of notes. I'll tell you why, because there were 8 guests. Okay,
nobody's more prepared on this planet than Oliver Mammon. Anyway.
There were 8 guests over the last 2 months. Okay, I was starting with so I've got Charlie Lyons, who came on from Grow Lab Organics, Jonathan Nadler from the Lifey Group, Callie Blackwell, who saved her son's life, Guy Coxall with his incredible reports, Phil Monk, and then Phil Monk and Robert Jappi together with their the reports they do, the WTU, and Robert Jappi with his legal approach to the cannabis market. And then there's Dr. Rebecca Moore, who was absolutely incredible, basically slammed the door on the myths of mental health and cannabis affiliations. And last week we had Dylan, who was great, the epilepsy patient, and we talked about CTE, and we talked about cannabis for post-sport recovery, etc. The issue is, like I said, we've never summarized. So I just thought, you know what?
By the way, let me just leap in for a second, Noel, because if you're thinking, damn, those shows sound good, and they really are. The guests are incredible. So what I would suggest is go on to the Men's Radio Station YouTube channel, All the shows are there, every single one. There, just look them up, the ABC of CBD, and pick the ones that you like, and you can watch them at your leisure.
They're also available on SoundCloud. They're also available on the Men's Radio. They're also available on the Men's Radio website. They're available on YouTube as well, which you can get them. They're all available. They're all actually very easy to find, which is pretty awesome. So if you want to listen to my voice, more than you have to.
Veronica Curran straight in goes, "Hello guys, door went. Where'd it go? Did it leave a note? We don't know."
Hi, Veronica.
Anna Barbosa Lugo, very cool. Well, that's got to be like the best name I've read out all week. No, Anna, I'm giving you best name I've read out in 2 months for sure. Anna Barbosa Lugo. Is that like? It sounds like out of a novel. It's great. What a great name.
Anna, find out what Russ is going to give you as a prize. Pull it on him. Make him give you a present.
You can have my no, Veronica. I was just joking. I know the door.
There we go. Put him on the spot there.
I know it didn't get on its legs and walk up the road, Veronica. I know you. Wow.
So yeah, like I was saying, so we've had these incredible guests who have gone into this incredible detail. Every single guest has had a very personal journey, a very personal story. Everyone's here for their own reason, and there is a reason behind everyone's actions in this industry. Some people are emotionally led, some people are financially led, some people just believe that this is the new space they want to get involved in, and they want to do things right. But everyone's got their story, and everyone, like Russ constantly says, everyone's so articulate, so well spoken about the subjects which we focused on with them. The episodes have just kind of gone.
And Ollie, I got to say that of all the many things, that has really floored me, because I didn't know. You know, I came into this, I thought, well, let's just give it a go. How bad can it be? And 36 weeks later, I'm reeling from the quality of the guests, and it's nothing to do with me at all. Ollie does it all, and they're so passionate, which I love. If you've got passion for something, you'll succeed. If you don't have passion, please just don't bother. Forget it. Don't do something else. And they're articulate, and they care, and they've just been brilliant.
Another thing is,
and as I said, and as our viewers and listeners are saying, just go to a YouTube channel, look up Ollie's shows. They're all there, and just work your way through them.
They're not my shows, Russ. They're our shows, my friend.
I always think of them as your shows. I'm a happy passenger.
You're still here, man. The passenger on every single train. You partly own the train.
Well, yeah, that's true. It is my railway track.
And I think it's quite important that we actually have this little bit of a summary today, because I'm sure there are opinions which you hold and opinions which I hold which haven't been shared based on certain people's topics. So I just thought it could be a nice little episode, and it gives us a chance basically to dissect what we've done. Like I said, over the last few weeks, over the last several weeks, we focused on medical cannabis, ways to obtain it, and patients who have used it both legally and illegally to help themselves. We focused on it a little bit before, but the last 8 weeks have really been like I said, an encyclopedia on this subject. And
what a learning curve, eh?
And then over the next, like I said, 5-6 weeks, we've got more doctors joining us and more professionals in order to give some validation to basically the arguments we've been putting across over the last 36 weeks. The main one being cannabis is over-demonized, and the view of cannabis is completely negative, whereas there are positives, and there have been for many years. But I'm just going to start. I'm going to drop a name. I think we can spend about 5-6 minutes on each person, and then basically
welcome somebody. We've got to welcome someone special. He's taking a big risk, and he hasn't watched the show before, but he loves Men's Radio. It's a chap called Paul Claridge, whose life has been a turmoil. Let's put it that way, Ollie. He says, "Hi guys, I can't usually tune into the show as I'm working, but today I'm being daring."
Amazing.
And I'm tuned in while working outside East Croydon Station. Paul, can I just say, please stay safe every bloody week. Every week. So people are just horrible. Paul has recovered from cancer. He had it appallingly. I mean, there's never a good cancer, but he had it appallingly. I've known Paul for many years. And, his energy, Ollie, and his positive attitude is just fantastic. And what he does, he hands out free newspapers. He's not selling you anything. And Paul and I go way back. He gives out free newspapers, right?
Evening Standard.
I'm not entirely. I think maybe the Standard.
I used to love my Evening Standard, dude, in Chancery Lane.
He has the crap beaten out of him nearly every week.
Why?
Because people are horrible. People are horrible. Here's a guy who's beaten cancer. He's trying to do something nice and give you a free newspaper. They beat him up. They push him to the ground. Humble. And there's always
What's the matter with this world, Russ?
What is the matter with people? What is the matter with people? So the reason I went to a little bit of trouble, because he's a special guy, and he's an unsung hero. There's a lot of people who are heroes out there, and Paul is one of them.
You've just pissed me off a little bit, Russ, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
There
we go.
I'm
annoyed
had
now. Another fight. Yes. The answer to your question, Ollie, yes, the Evening Standard had another fight with a moron on Wednesday. I mean,
what's the matter with
people? Are people so, and it comes back to ABC of CBD, are people so wound up, Ollie? So wound up.
I don't
they
think
see
people,
a guy giving you a newspaper, you got to punch him?
I think people have forgotten how to behave, Russ. So I think after 15 months of being locked away in a hole, everyone's forgotten how to behave. And everyone, they're so used to having their loved ones around them. And the best thing about your loved ones is you can say anything to your loved ones and get away with it. And you can do anything to your loved ones and most of the time get away with it. And the problem is that's not the way to behave in the real world. No, you can. You're allowed to be pissed off, and you're allowed to be you're allowed to be a dick around your loved ones. But then you kind of leave this world of COVID isolation. You go back into the real world. You have to start behaving like a normal person again. There's a certain.
It would be nice.
And don't get me wrong, this is as someone who has anger issues. I've got massive anger issues, and I get.
That's kind of why I raised it, because you do. I mean, you got Tourette's, you got anger issues, all sorts of stuff. You're
still wouldn't go around beating the crap out of people. It's not in me. I'm not a fighter.
Especially if someone who's clearly not in the best, who was far from well. And
I'm really sorry, man.
Lot in life to contend with. Let's move on. Anyway, Paul, you're very welcome.
So let's start our little summary, guys. Just before we start our summary, be nice to each other. There's only one world. We all inhabit it together. Let's try and be nice to each other. Let's try and help each other, because that kind of fits into the total.
Here's the thing.
Go on.
The cannabis and the hemp has been demonized. Right? And and then you have people saying, "Oh, be kind." Well, that campaign lasted about a week before it was, forget it. We're not being kind to anybody. It's just potty. It's a potty. It's just potty. Paul's come back. This has been going on for years, but the recent lockdown has seen a rise in incidents, not only for me, and here's an interesting thing, for the station staff as well.
I heard
They've
something.
Got to deal with this. They've got to deal with it. These guys.
I saw something disgusting this morning, and I think it's because it was a doggy. It really upset me.
If it's a dog, don't tell me.
No, just hear me out here. Like a policeman saw someone getting stabbed, went to stop him, and the dude stabbed the dog in the face. Stabbed the police dog in the face. The dog lived.
The guy and shoot him.
The dogs lived, the dudes lived, but you've got this really cute Alsatian doggy with a little scar down his face, a little smile, and it's just like, I saved the day. It's really cute, but then it's also really sad that any sick dude can stab a dog in the face. It's just the world's gone crazy, and I listen. We could talk about this for an hour if you want. We can actually,
but it's kind of linked.
You want to talk about this?
Here's why I was letting the conversation flow a bit. It's because after 36 weeks of talking to you and your guests, my view has changed. I'll be absolutely frank. My view has sort of done a 180. And if what you are proposing chills people out, not if it makes them walking morons, but if it chills people out, I'm not even going to get onto the health side. You know where I sit with that. Then I can't see that it's a terrible thing. And my view has changed.
And what about something else? Like back onto that whole idea of, behaving correctly. Okay, let's just. I'm going to try. I've got an idea in my mind. I'm going to try and get it out. I might not be able to. It might not come out. So the whole idea of behaving correctly. It's not about that whole idea of treat others the way you would want to be treated. Okay, and that's like one of the foundational principles we all learn as a kid. Do unto others as you would want done to yourself. I believe it's even a 10 commandment. Okay, it's like foundationally there and across our society. Now, do unto others as you would want done to yourself. Don't go out there, start fights with people because you wouldn't want people starting fights with you.
You would.
Don't go out there demonizing someone else's access to salvation, someone's access to help, because if you were in that position, you wouldn't want someone demonizing you. And that's the main thing I'm trying to get across from these 36 episodes so far is I don't care if you are pro-cannabis or anti-cannabis. What I want you to do is I want you to have a real understanding of it and the factual understanding of what cannabis actually is. As soon as you have that, you can have whatever opinion you want, as long as the understanding is factual and your opinion is based on factual understanding. And that whole idea of do unto others, and do you want to say, Russ?
No, I'm completely with you. I totally understand that. The reason I was laughing, and I link it back to the pandemic and COVID and the nightmare we've had for the last 18 months, is this. Ollie, what you're proposing is, learn the facts, understand the subject, then make a comment. That is the grown-up, sensible way to do things in life. But with the pandemic, which we've never encountered before, right? And it's not just like a bad flu, for God's sake, it's not. You've got, Doreen, the hairdresser from Stoke-on-Trent, is suddenly a medical expert, and her opinion on social media is as equally important and as valid as a doctor who's studied for 10 years and knows what the hell they're talking about. This is the world we live in. So you're absolutely right. Let's understand it. I've learned so much, and I just wanted to act as a sort of buffer between you and the guests, etc. But I've learned so much, and understand the subject. And if you don't like it, if it's not for you, absolutely fine.
It's also important to
don't bother to go for it. If you like it, you like it.
I might actually scramble up guests. So basically, as Guy Coxwell basically came out and said, all right, this education around cannabis is not new. All right, pro-cannabis information and education, the idea of cannabis being a medicinal being a medicinal product with a plethora of medicinal compounds hidden within it, has been around for thousands of years. Now, over the last thousands of years, there have been books written and studies done and a lot of adoption of cannabis as a medicine. It's just one of those things. Now, over the last 100 years, whilst cannabis has been demonized and made illegal, there has still been pro-cannabis information which has been portrayed to us, and it's been created for us to see. The problem is we've just never seen it. So over the last 100 years, whilst all of this demonization of cannabis has occurred, all right, there has been a lot of pro-cannabis education. Everyone's saying cannabis is new. Cannabis medicine is new. It's a new thing. It's hard for a new thing to be adopted so quickly. It's hard for a new thing to be understood. It's not a new thing. And the whole way of, and like Guy Coxwell said, over the course of history, as negative demonizing information surrounding cannabis has come onto the market, there has been pro-cannabis information out there. It just hasn't come onto the market. And it's like, what have we seen? The ball back here is hidden and the ball in front is right here. It's like, you're only being shown what they want you to see. And I would understand skepticism if cannabis was a brand new thing. All right. And cannabis was brand new and it was discovered yesterday and it can cure everything. I would understand skepticism. But research has been done for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Queen Victoria used medical cannabis in the 1930s in America when the war on drugs started. There was copious amounts of cannabis education and pro-cannabis information, which was gathered and portrayed to governmental audiences, but it was just ignored. And it's important for us as a community to know that we're not dealing with something brand new. We're not. I'm not telling you something that people haven't known for thousands of years. Everything I know, people have known for thousands of years. It just hasn't been listened.
It's interesting. I'm a big, there's nothing new under the sun, as the French saying goes. And I'm a huge Agatha Christie fan. And today, looking in an antiquarian bookshop window, which I love to do, was a letter from Agatha Christie to someone about the mousetrap.
Buy it.
I'd love to. I can't imagine what it's worth.
Well, probably like $5,000, right?
But anyway, the reason I mention it is that when you read the original Agatha Christie books, the drug references are all throughout them, which is always a shock.
Positive or negative?
Negative. But she's not talking about dope. It's not talking about dope. She's talking about much,
But then you read Alice in Wonderland, and guess what? It's all positive. Just if it depends what eyes you read Alice in Wonderland with. If you read
the point I'm making, whether it's negative or positive, is what I was going to say is it's nothing new. These are books that were written in the 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. And when things are set in the 20s, when she was writing, it's really interesting to see that it's nothing new. What is new, and what you and your extraordinary guests have demonstrated, is the scale, the way this has been scaled up. You know, this is not some dodgy bloke in a BMW with blacked out windows dealing some nonsense on a street corner. That's not what this is about at all.
It's about creating a system which helps people out there get what they need and helps access and helps, helps make this whole system easier. That's what everyone's trying to do. They're trying to make access easier. They're trying to make the reliability of suppliers easier. So this is what Charlie said. So Charlie Lyons is the man from the Isle of Man. Okay, and he's building the farm on the Isle of Man. We also met Alex Frey, his business partner, and they're talking about providing UK patients with a source of cannabinoid medication, which comes from the UK. At this moment of time, all cannabis medication in the UK is imported, which means that there are import duties and taxes and other costs affiliated with shipping. We all know when we buy something anywhere and they add a shipping fee, it's usually double the price of the good you're buying anyway.
It's very expensive. It is very expensive.
Now, if you think about the fact that a lot of patients, their prescriptions are individual, all right, they're independent individual prescriptions. So it's not like you've got a big batch which has got a mass tax put on it. You've got individual batches which are passing through borders being taxed, passing through another border being taxed, going into the hands of a broker, having their additional cost put on, coming into the UK, going to a storage facility where they have more cost put on. Then they're distributed to a pharmacy where there are more costs put on, and then they're shipped to the end user for additional costs. The price of the actual cannabis medication is augmented in price by every single one of these levels. That's what Charlie said and what Charlie talked about. And what he really wants to do is create a source for cannabinoids in the UK. This is mainly because of price. Price is really important when it comes to access. But price is relative. Okay, so you have to understand, people always talk about Tanine was talking about how she wants her medication to be more affordable. That doesn't mean she wants a different variant of her medicine at a more affordable price. She wants the medicine she is getting, but she wants that specific medicine to be more affordable.
To be clear for people who are joining, it's particularly formulated, so it's not like popping into Holland and Barrett or Boots or whatever, and getting some Nurofen, which is general for everybody, or ibuprofen. Each of these things that Ollie's talk about and mentions, understand personal. It's been done exactly for you.
It's very personal.
Balance. It's a very, very one-on-one situation, which these days, it's like getting a bespoke suit.
It's very rare. It's a tailored product.
It's very rare.
And the thing is, we're talking about kids with epilepsy when we talk about Tanine, and we talk about this idea of price. But like we're saying, so price is relative. So price is relative to how effective a product is. If you have two variants, one costs 3 and one costs 10, but the 10 is 10 times more effective than the 3, then that price is relative. That 10 is actually more effective than the 3 because you would actually end up getting more out of it. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand. All right. Okay.
So it's important. So
efficacy. You're talking about are you talking about efficacy?
Yeah. So that's the effectiveness of the product. The efficacy of the product is relative to the price. Okay. Also, it's about the reliability. So price is relative for reliability. Yes, I will rather pay £5 a gram, but if that means I've got to order twice a year as opposed to every single month, it's, it makes it a little bit more difficult, and the reliability of my supplier therefore means that the price they're charging me isn't actually a better price. So there's all of these discussions.
You've lost. I'm going to be honest. I'm sorry if everyone's ahead of me on this. I apologize for being thick.
I'm probably saying it wrong.
No, you're not. No, but it's important because I hope that if I understand it, then everyone's probably saying, Russ, we got
fine.
it.
So like I'm saying, so
I've got a supplier. I can either go to supplier A and he can supply me every month for price 1.
Yeah.
Or I can go to supplier B
who supplies you a
much buy a year's worth.
But it's not the fact that you choose to buy a year's worth. You have to buy a year's worth.
Oh, I see.
Okay. But it reduces your price. So what happens there? As in, yes, the price is reduced, but in terms of like the reliability of your supply. If your supply is only around once a year, he's not reliable. So let's say, God forbid, you have a fire and you lose all of your medicine. Do you understand? So the price comes into play there as well.
Okay.
And it's all like, the problem is in the UK, a lot of these systems, they try and encourage patients to buy monthly or every 3 months. So for example, Philip Anthony Bevington will buy a bottle every 3 months. Okay, so he will get a 3-month supply. The issue is when you're using a cannabis-based medication, users can build a tolerance to that product. So then what happens is you end up consuming 3 times more at the end of the month than you would at the start of the month. So therefore, that price is relative to the effectiveness of that product and the reliability of a supplier to get you product on a regular basis.
Yeah, I get it.
Do you understand what I mean?
I get it. Is that
and it's that whole journey no one
case?
talks
Because
about.
I know that with pharmaceuticals, you can easily become kind of not immune, but their effectiveness, and you need to keep topping up. If you go for painkillers or stuff like that, I understand that. So that's the same thing, is it, with CBD?
But it's with all cannabinoids, because also you get used to specific strains, you get used to a specific blend, so it needs to sometimes be changed a little bit if you need it for another reason. Also, cannabinoids are always changing slightly because they're a natural, they're a natural amalgamation. You can't control a natural amalgamation the way you would a scientific one. You can't control the plant to create an exact replica every single time.
I think one of the first analogies I made to see if I've understood that is, let's just say with wine, you kind of go back to a particular vineyard because you like that wine, but 1 year might well be different than the next year because of the sun or the rain or the slight change in the soil. So if you're dealing with nature, there's going to be a slight variation.
Or even the winemaking procedure. We like to believe that, everything's done by the book. But fact of the matter is when you're processing 16 tons of wine, or 16 tons of grapes, and you're turning it into wine, how can you be so sure that those grapes contain exactly the same amount of liquid that was in the grapes of the year before and the right amount of sugars and this and that? There's like the plant's always changing. It'll be similar, a similar genetic, but the same way identical twins are still different. Do you understand? It's physically impossible to create a genetic it's physically impossible to naturally create a genetic replicant, right?
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Replicant? Yeah. Replicant doesn't sound like the right word.
Well, I think that's
replication. That also doesn't sound like the right word.
That's more Blade Runner. I always think I can hear the word replicant. All I can think of is Blade Runner.
That's just not the right word, though. And I feel like I've just
replication.
It just doesn't sound right. I feel like I'm stupid.
I don't think they're going to.
But you understand what I'm trying to say? Right. It's physically impossible, and that's one thing. So Charlie was talking about creating a more like patient-focused approach, where patients don't really have to make these calculations and stock up large amounts, and like it's a bit more of a personal journey. And price is relative to that personal journey. Like I personally know as a patient, I would rather pay 11 and have something which is super personalized than pay 6 and have something where I'm kind of left in the dark alone again. And that's another thing. So everyone talks about we want to reduce the price. It's not just about the price, it's about the service. And the service and the price come together, and that's what you're paying for. So it's all of this understanding, which is kind of not really being thought about. And that was kind of my evaluation of Charlie. Like, I think he's going to do great things because he's thinking about the patients.
I'll tell you what fascinates. Well, when we come to discussing this for medicinal purposes, when our guest, showed a video of her little kid having an epileptic fit, I don't think you would need a heart of granite not to be so moved. It was shocking. It's little mite. And you think, oh my God, you feel so helpless. So to do anything which would help it has got to be, that sticks out in my mind so much. There's certain guests that I picture them straight away, and their story was so powerful. Hers was probably the most powerful story, along with
the video. Callie was incredible. Callie was absolutely incredible. Tanine is like still living the trauma every day. Every day she lives this. Every day she lives this life. And in a few weeks' time, we actually have another guest coming on. We have a really, really great lady called Hannah Deacon. She's on the show I think in 3 weeks' time. She also, her son's a medical cannabis patient. He has epilepsy and he actually has an NHS prescription. So I'm really excited to get into her story as well in a few weeks.
Can I read a couple of, hello to you, Chrissy Richards. That's out in Spain.
I'm
in Spain now. I'm going to read a couple of things from Veronica Curran, if I may. Long time back, Channel 4 did a whole night on medicinal use of cannabis. It's so wrong. We are still, I'm going to say fighting. I don't mind if I paraphrase. I can't use once a copyright, always a copyright. Veronica, sorry. We're still fighting. One thing the pandemic did was get people using social media. Yeah, something on that. And I do think more realize it's not about a big fat doobie. In other words, what you'll say, if I may paraphrase, is you're saying it's not about people hanging out on the street corners smashed off their faces. It's, that's not what it's about.
There's a beautiful saying. I think the Body Shop copyrighted it back in the 90s. Hemp is help, not high. So it's quite nice, that's what it is. And cannabis in general is nowadays about help. It's not about the high. It's not about getting stoned. It's about treating ailments and helping people on their struggles on a daily basis.
And why I'm passionate about this show and so impressed by everything that Ollie does and his guests.
I'm pretty awesome, Russ. You love me, right? You love me. He loves me. He loves me. Am I the youngest host? Is there a younger host than me on Men's Radio?
Yeah, me. And I think Phil's
33.
Oh, you beat Phil by 1 year.
Yeah. That's it. Am I the youngest host on the station? It's not bad, is it?
I got milk older than that in my fridge. Anyhow, that's not the point. I was about to say it takes a long, long time to change this. And I know you're a very impatient guy. But when you think in relatively short period of time, it wasn't that long ago that Chesterfield cigarettes, I think it was Chesterfield, their print advertising was a doctor wearing a white coat, like the picture I always put up of you. And he says, at Christmas, I always recommend to my patients Chesterfields. And you think, have a cigarette. Let's talk about how you're feeling. That was, in terms of how we evolve as people, that was relatively 5 minutes ago.
As opposed to making a joke out of this, why don't we say something? Do you not see a massive problem with healthcare professionals over the last 50 years? And why the only one who's seeing a massive issue right here? I'm laughing because if I don't laugh, I'm going to scream and I don't want to do that.
The thing is, these things take time. And when you've been told one narrative, that it's all terrible and it's all bad, and I'm part of that, some guard is a gateway drug and you're going to end up sticking a needle in your arm, sitting underneath a bridge in London, living in a box. That's the, Project Fear, as they say, and that's what they say. It does take a long time to change things. I'm only saying this because you're 33. And like, for
yes
example,
and no. Yes,
the phrase "one for the road." That with my late dad, you'd always say "one for the road," and you'd have a drink before you got in the car. Everybody said that. Have one for the road. Oh, lovely. But you wouldn't think of doing it now. So it does take time to change, but change does happen. It does happen.
Yeah, but you got to. Yes and no. Okay, fine. There wasn't this plague of demonization around cigarettes and alcohol, which then turned positive. There was this plague of positive information around actual terrible substances, which have now turned negative. It's the other way around. It's like a role reversal, and it's like as opposed to throwing something from this hand to this hand, you're throwing it from this hand to this hand. It's like a proper switch around.
Listen to this, Veronica Curran. I had a dentist who sat smoking while waiting for you to numb up. Ever. Veronica, I don't know where the hell that was.
It's just filth.
You've just absolutely killed me there. And Chrissy Richards, who lives on a farm in the middle of nowhere in Spain, Chrissy writes this, Ollie, can you answer this question? I read a few weeks ago that a farmer in the UK growing hemp worth £200,000 and he had to destroy it. Why? Capital letters.
So, as Jamie Bartley, our resident hemp expert, has dropped on many occasions, the licenses needed to cultivate hemp, even for industrial purposes, are so hard to, you could call it, maintain. So, for example, all hemp plants grow with hemp flowers, okay? They all grow with them. If you're seen to have removed a hemp flower from your plant, you lose your license. So let's say, for example, this dude thought, you know what? Because the world is messed up.
Okay, no. I mean, because people are watching this and listening, they go, wait a minute. So you got a plant, you go on, you pick the plant, you pick the flower off.
So you need a license. You need, because the licenses around hemp cultivation in the UK are very specific. So if you're given a license to grow hemp for the use of shiv, you're not allowed to use any other part of the plant. If you've got a license to grow hemp for the use of industrial application to build hempcrete and bricks, you're not allowed to be seen to be doing anything else with that. And if you deviate at all from that path, then what happens is you've broken basically the laws of your license. And as
so if I gave a stupid example, you've got a license to run a restaurant in Soho, I don't know, making this up, and you think, I know what, I've got a lot of people passing, I'm going to open a garage here as well. They go, wait a minute, no, you can't do that. Am I completely off beat?
Yeah, it's basically like that, but if it's more like, you know what, you've got a license to open a restaurant, you're only allowed to deal with fish with fins and scales, okay? And therefore one day you get a little phone call and someone brings you, I don't know, some ray wings, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, I'm going to cook them for my guests as a special, and they come and shut you down. Why? Because your license is only to deal with fish with fins and scales. Ray wings don't have fins and scales, so therefore you've been shut down. No warning, no, don't do it again. And then here's another thing: if you have ray wings on the premises, dude, you're done. Let's say, God forbid, you get a wrong delivery of ray wings to your restaurant's shut down. And that's what it is the margin for error when you're holding one of these hemp licenses are so slim. And that's why Jamie says it over and over again. His hands are literally shackled. And it's this prohibition around cannabis as a whole. When I say cannabis sativa, okay, the Latin name for hemp. And you have the umbrella which sits above, which is cannabis sativa. And underneath that, you have hemp for industrial purposes, hemp for CBD extraction, medicinal cannabis. It's all part of the same family. But when you are prescribed a license in the UK, you are prescribed down a specific route, and you're not allowed to deviate from that specific route. The licenses,
and one of the things which floored me is you've got to chuck the rest away. So whatever you've got your very, very narrow license for, you can't say, but what I'll do is I'll get Fred up the road and he can use this to make bricks, or he can use this to, no.
There's a beautiful example. So there was a company called Hempen. I really hope they don't sue me. So Hempen they were very well known. No, they did. I personally think they did nothing wrong, but they got in a lot of trouble a few years ago. They had a license to grow and cultivate hemp for industrial purposes. They were growing flowers, and some new kid in the building decided to pick one of the hemp flowers to check it out under a microscope. On the day that the the MHRA or one of these governing bodies was visiting, they saw the hemp flower and they shut them down. They destroyed
because the kid just decided to have a look.
Because the kid's like, you know what, I want to have a look at this under a microscope. He's a scientist. He was a scientist in the place. Wants to have a look at it under a microscope, so he picked it just to have a look at it just once curiosity.
So Chrissy Richards, as I said, out in Spain, says this before you even said that. But wind and rain could knock the flowers off.
Yeah, and but then the thing is, they'll be on the floor underneath the thing, and you haven't harvested them. You haven't tried to. They need to. There is reasonable doubt, okay. But let's say, for example, there is a hemp flower which falls off. You pick it up and you bring it into the kitchen, okay. You've broken the law. Why? Because who knows what you're trying to do with that hemp flower once it's in the kitchen. It's mental. But what I don't understand is, like you're saying, hemp flowers can blow off. Wind can blow hemp flowers into a building. It's insanity.
Well,
The
this
laws.
is weird, isn't it?
No,
It
but the
wouldn't
laws
actually
in
put
the
it onto
UK.
it wouldn't put it onto a microscope slide, though, would it?
No, it
I mean,
won't.
would
But
be
the laws in
pretty
the UK are there to prohibit us from progressing in this industry. I read a beautiful article this morning. It was an interview with a guy called Dr. Mike Barnes. Mike Barnes is on the show in a few weeks' time as well. And basically, the title of the article is "Medical Cannabis Industry in the UK Will Not Go Anywhere Unless Doctors Start to Do More." And it's basically talking about this system where if we all shut up, nothing's going to happen. And we need people to speak out. We need more Rebecca Moores to come out there and talk. We need more people to go out there and voice their opinions, because if they're not, this industry is not going to be there. And the problem is everyone's so governed and everyone's so controlled. The only way to loosen control is to develop support. The only way a government is going to let us have this is if we all show that we want this. But at the moment, this demonization around cannabis has created a separation. Some people really need cannabis. Other people don't think they deserve it. Doctors are terrified to put their heads above the parapet. Lawyers are terrified to put their heads above the parapet. Don't even get me started on politicians. We've got one dude who's the mayor who is extremely pro-medical cannabis, Sadiq Khan. But apart from that, there is no one out there who is
when you're
verbally...
riding a bicycle.
Sorry?
One of his... I'm knowing Sadiq Khan, probably you have to be in a bike lane.
Well, to be honest with you, it's good.
Before you can use it.
Listen, I'll be honest with you. If I had to ride a bicycle to get medical cannabis or recreational cannabis in the UK, I would ride a bike. I would give up my truck. I would do it. Okay, go green for green. That could actually be a slogan. Go green for green. I like that.
Don't we drive a Jeep now? Anyway.
So basically, there's a lot of these articles going out. There's a lot of you could call it energy being put into trying to get this market to recognize that it's all about the patients, but without us, the patients aren't going to get what they need. And if the patients don't start speaking out as well, no one's going to listen. And it's not just about the patients speaking out. It's about the friends of the patients and the families of the patients. If anyone knows,
and I'd like to say the parents of the patients,
the parents of the patients as well. And everyone
needs heartbreaking.
Everyone needs to get involved in supporting this argument in order for it to become normality, because right now there are so many people suffering. There's 1.8 million people in the UK who are branded as criminals. Why? Because they choose to medicate themselves differently from you. All right, I'm not going to say you and me, from you. All right, and it's very important that you don't judge these people for wanting to feel okay, because that's what it's all about. It's just about people wanting to feel right. No one's trying to start a criminal enterprise. No one's trying to take over the world. No one's trying to make you do something you don't want to do. All they want to do is they want to do what they need to do. And like every medicinal cannabis patient will tell you, if they have two options between medical cannabis and generally feeling normal at the click of a finger, they will pick the feeling normal at the click of the finger every single day. Why? Because no one wants to be an illegal cannabis user for a medicinal reason. No one wakes up, no one's born thinking they're going to be in this world. No one's born thinking, I'm going to be a pro-medical cannabis activist. I'm going to be a pro-medical cannabis doctor. We're not born doing it. We were all born in a world which demonized cannabis. We were all brought up in a world which saw cannabis as so bad. Until the age of 15 years old, I thought cannabis was going to literally send me loopy. And it's only when I smoked it and it sent me a better direction that I was like, oh my God, like everyone's been lying to me. And I spoke to a few people, and I still get it. You really shouldn't smoke cannabis because of your Tourette syndrome. And it's ridiculous because it's not that the links are not there. A, there are not that many people with Tourette syndrome, and B, there are really very few people with Tourette syndrome who have consumed cannabis who have gone on to have psychotropic issues, mass psychological issues later on down the line. So, the education which surrounds all of us has basically created this mindset, which is not true. And the only people who are suffering are people who are already suffering. So you've got people who are lying on the street on fire. We have the ability to throw water on them, but we're throwing gasoline on them. And I don't get it. I don't understand. You listen to stories like Callie, okay? And Callie still doesn't talk about what she's done unless people want to listen. Why? Because of the abuse she gets for saving her son's life. I mean, imagine you save your kid's life using something and they try and take your kids away from you. You save your kid's life by doing something and everyone criticizes you. What are you supposed to do? Let your kid die? And we live in a world still.
Hopefully we never have to be placed in that position.
She should be celebrated. She should be celebrated. She should be rewarded. She should be given a Nobel Prize.
Well, not about a Nobel Prize, but she should be. Yeah, I mean, she's an extraordinary woman.
And the thing is, she's not telling you to change the way, and she's not telling you, or she's not telling any of us to change what we're doing. What she wants to do is she wants you to understand that there might be another option out there if everything else fails.
One of the things that's very interesting about all of your guests, and Chrissy, I'm going to read out your comments in a minute. To hold tight in Spain. One of the things that's very interesting is, although they're passionate about what it can do and the medical advantages that it can give, no one has come on, thank heavens, because I would have to shoot them down, really, and say, give up all pharmaceuticals because they're all absolutely terrible and you've got to do this and it'll all be fine. Well, it won't.
I wouldn't let that happen. As in,
in life,
it's not a replacement for the medical system. This is what doctors have to understand. It's not a sack off what you've known for 45 years and adopt cannabis. It's cannabis might actually be useful for the patients who are not benefiting from the standard medications you're using. Totally, but that's the whole point. If I really wanted to be an anti-pharmaceutical pro-cannabis person, this show would be completely different. What I want to do, I'm very open about the fact that I take a pharmaceutical medication called Depakote for my Tourette syndrome. I take it every single day. I have done since I was 7 years old. And I'm too scared to take myself off of it. Why? Because I've been on it for 26 years. Okay.
Wow.
Now, fact of the matter is I take a very small dose. I actually don't feel it. All right. Like I don't think it does anything for me. But at the end of the day, I'm in this routine of taking a pharmaceutical med and I balance out the rest of my ailments using cannabis, which is completely fine. It's allowed. It's like if I had £1,000 to spend, I could get a prescription tomorrow and I'm not a criminal anymore. So why is that? Why is that £1,000 what makes you look at me differently?
I'll tell you what it is. There's several things. Let me read Chrissy's comments and I'm going to try and answer your question if I can. Chrissy says, the answer is to get a petition to promote medicinal cannabis. I'm not going to read the rest of that out. Thank you, Sinner, because it's a side issue and I don't want to get sidetracked. And then she says, Willie Nelson smokes it. He's 87. He only looks 97. He's 87. Bless him. And
if any of us lived the life that Willie has lived, we would look 103. I mean, that dude has lived more than we've lived.
As they said, as to paraphrase the famous saying, what kind of world are our children going to leave for Keith Richards? That's basically it. Still makes me smile. Right. There is a saying, Ollie, that when America sneezes, Britain catches a cold. We know that in America it's being legalized in many, many states. The proof is in the pudding. It hasn't become a replication of the purge. You haven't got people running. Well, you have. You know what I'm saying. People haven't gone completely raving mad over this. Life continues as it always has done. All right. So eventually it will become legal over here. And the answer is, as with nearly everything in life, why I think you will win. Oh, follow the money. Follow the money. If there is enough money involved in this, all the people who are saying no will suddenly think, hey, you know what, that's a pretty damn good idea. And that's what they'll do. That's what they'll do. If it becomes commercialized to that extent, and is successful, you'll see legislation will quite probably change.
So the problem is that we're so far behind. So America medicalized its first state in 1996. 1996. Okay, so it's 25 years ago was when California medicalized cannabis. It was 5 years ago or 4 or 5 years ago when California recreationalized cannabis. Now you've got, like they say, I think something like 35 states have legal or recreational law which has been passed, and it's really doing fantastic things for the American population. They found that cannabis usage has not gone up. Okay, they found that new people are not being more attracted to it.
This is the most important thing you have said in 49 minutes. In all seriousness, this is so important. It's so
really
vital that people understand this.
So this is my inner sociologist right now.
I know, I'm going to take drugs.
It doesn't happen that way. The whole point is that it's actually easier to buy cannabis on the street anywhere in the world than it is to buy cannabis through a dispensary. To go through a dispensary, you need to have ID, you need to have, if you're going medicinal, you need to have a recommendation, and then it's a process. To buy cannabis on the street, it's a phone call and a delivery. I mean, whether you're 13 years old or 113 years old, you can get cannabis delivered to your front door in about 15 minutes, wherever you are in the country. To be honest with you, probably wherever you are in the world. It's the easiest drug to source. And like we said, 75% of the entire UK population has tried cannabis at one moment or another in their life, which means that 75%, something like 75 million people in the UK haven't.
We've only got a population of, let's hang on, we've only got a population of 67 million.
I thought there were 100 million people in the UK.
No, it just feels like that when you get on the tube in London.
Is it really not? Okay, fine. So 67 million.
It's 60, I think, because of the population. Well, I think.
Why do I think there was 100 million people in the UK? Because I'm stupid. I'm stupid. Anyway, I don't know why. Don't know why. So basically 66 million people in the UK, 75%. So let's say about 50 million people, 52 million people or something. So you've got 52 million people in the UK. I actually think that's pretty accurate. It's not bad math. So you got 50.
Take out children. Well, let's not get into the.
Anyway, so basically you've got 50.
Make it even 30 million.
Whatever.
You know,
so you
take away the children and whatever.
But who have consumed cannabis, who might not have pursued it. Just because it's legal and they can buy it from a shop doesn't mean they're more likely to pursue it. The same way that, you know, I do drink alcohol, but I do not drink alcohol every day, and I can buy alcohol in every street corner. I'm not walking into shops buying bottles of vodka, sticking in a straw and downing it. I'm not doing that. Why? Because as human beings, we know what we want. You know, we know if we want to get high, we know if we want to go for a run, we know if we want to eat healthy or if we want to eat unhealthy. We're very much self-determined individuals. That's not going to change, okay? What will happen, though, is 1.8 million people and the growing numbers might actually find a little bit of peace. They might actually find a little bit of happiness, and also cost and policing, general like tax, like what's it called, the income tax, which will come off it, will be absolutely insane, and it's stupid to ignore it. It really is. That
links back to what I said about, and I wasn't being flippant when I say follow the money. And they work out the tax advantages.
It's very important we say this. So, like, back onto what we were talking about. We were talking about the medicine before. So about like all these additional costs. Now, I buy a product from a supplier in Eastern Europe. It's a full extract cannabis oil. I've shown you it before. It's like a black paste, okay, in like a syringe. Now, that product is very, very similar in nature to Bedrocan. All right, Bedrocan is what all of the epileptic patients use. Slightly different genetic of plant, but a very similar concept of product. Now, the issue is that I pay for that stuff about £1.50 a gram, £2 a gram, depending on the strength of it. Okay, Bedrocan is £12 a gram. So there's a 6 times margin, which is somehow being added onto a product through all of these different means.
I'm very, very excited. And it's very interesting what you're saying. I'm very excited because we've been joined by Gloria Miller in California.
Hey,
Santa Monica. Glow. Gloria Miller.
She's living the life right there in Santa
Gloria
Monica.
Miller is, you could do an entire series about the life story of Gloria Miller. She's an amazing person. And she says, here in California, most customers in the stores are seniors buying for sleep, arthritic issues, etc., etc. See, that's what's so interesting. That's what's so interesting. And that's what they're preventing people from doing.
You're preventing people from dosing up on pharmaceuticals, which might actually hurt people.
And Gloria, eventually, will you let me know where the hell's Shirley moving to? I have no idea. Suddenly moving. Where am I going to stay? This is an emergency. It's very interesting. So give me those figures again. You pay like £1 or two.
Yeah, I pay like £1.50, £2 a gram.
And the Bedrocan is
Bedrocan would work out about, like I said, about 10 times. Sorry, about 6 to 10 times that, if not more. To be honest with you, it's like extortionate. But then that's what happens when products are not produced in the UK for end consumers. You know, there are too many barriers this product has to pass through. And like every business, man, you get your hands on something, you're going to add your margin onto it. And that's what happens. And unfortunately, the patients are the ones who suffer. And it's not fair because the patients are the ones who need this. You know, it's not about the rest of us just getting high. It's about these people who suffer.
I really would like to stress, I'm sorry to talk across you.
That's fine.
No, it's not fine. It's unprofessional. The one thing I do want to stress, and I had great trepidation when the show was, proposed to me, and I thought, let me give it a go, okay, because I have certain views, is this. Number one, no one that Ollie has had on has said, put away the whole pharmaceutical industry. They're all terrible people, and let's just, use hemp. No one has said that. Everyone's being very grown up and very sensible. It's horses for courses. And the other thing is, no one is saying, let's do this to get everybody hooked on drugs, like the worst dystopian sci-fi movies. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about at all. So I think Gloria Miller there in Santa Monica, California, is saying, you go into the store and it's mostly seniors because they want to sleep well and they've got arthritic issues. That when you hear that from somebody there actually seeing it, it puts a completely different complexion on the way that it would probably be spun over here. All our school children and everybody be smashed off their faces.
But actually, what you've got is you've got thousands of Philip Anthony Bevingtons, okay, who don't want to suffer. So I've actually got like a little thing here. I want to read it because it's quite important. I just thought I might as well before we're over. Fine. The more professionals who support the industry, the larger it will become, and the more beneficial to patients it will become. Without the support of medical staff, patients will continue to suffer and will continue to be left in the dark. Doctors will continue to preach a curriculum of fiction, and there will be no beneficial change. Now, in America, I've just written it. My notes, yeah. So basically, it's very important because if you think about America, doctors have actually started to support this, and individuals are supporting this, and you have so many people supporting the industry that the patients can actually get what they want. And it's all about the patients. It's all about these shops filled with seniors who manage to find what they actually need because the market has created it. Now, the main thing we have to realize is we're not making the change for us. We're making the change for the patients, the people who need it. Doctors became doctors to help people, to make a difference in life where there is pain and where there is suffering. There is a huge ability to make functional change for patients, okay? But it's not being done. If medical professionals do not step up to the plate, educate themselves, and take a second to see this new system as what it really is, they are stating that patients and the pain that they experience is worth ignoring. And I have to say, Russ is going to get upset with me. Doctors who ignore this, you are saying that patients deserve to suffer. Why? Because you have taken an oath to help people, to protect people, and to make people's lives better. And you ignoring this, I'm not saying replace what you've learned, but you ignoring this is you saying that they deserve to be in pain, whether you want to admit that or not.
We need to discuss that. I'm not cutting you off at the pass there, but we need to discuss that. We've got like 2 minutes, and I don't want to get. That's such a complicated issue. If you think about palliative,
I just wanted to drop that. I wanted to drop that bomb.
Well, we should be talking about that in another show for sure. I'll tell you why. Because then you get into the whole palliative care versus hospital care. Trust me, I know too much about that, which I bloody well didn't.
Closing statement. It's very important. I've just got to throw this out there. I don't want to be taken care of by someone who chooses my suffering over my comfort, and I don't want to put my health in the hands of people who do not care about me. I think it's very important that all of us understand this, and we almost put it on doctors to be like, do you not care about my life? Because if you don't care about my life, that's completely cool, but you shouldn't be a doctor because that's what your job is. Your job is to care about my health.
Their argument will be, like the police did with Anthony Bevington, 81-year-old, 81 for God's sake. He's not exactly, he's not exactly Corleone. And it's this. They say, our hands are tied. We have to do what the law prescribes.
It's legal though, Russ. But it's legal.
Stop.
Sorry.
With Anthony, they had to do what they did. They could have turned a blind eye, but they couldn't. Anyway, I've absolutely loved this week's show, Ollie.
Shall we just not have guests ever again?
No, you will have guests because they're dazzling and
I think I might just give up on all my guests. I love all my guests. I'm just joking.
No, you won't. No, you won't.
I tell you what it is this is important. I think these little summaries and analyses are important. Maybe we should do it like once every couple of months.
We'll schedule them in. We will be back same time next week. This is exclusive to Men's Radio Station with Ollie Mammon and myself, Ross Kane. Till then, stay safe.